Welcome to Raising the Bar, a podcast giving no bullshit marketing advice for Aussie business owners. Expertise takes experience, and that's why we tell stories from lived experience to deliver marketing that raises the standard of what Aussie business owners should expect.
We are back with another episode of Raising the Bar, and two key things we need to point out before we actually get into the topic this week, Melissa. First one being apparently we can't count.
Yeah, we're not phenomenal at counting. I take full responsibility for that. When I wrote the drafts for you to read through, I put the wrong. So we got excited. We're not at 10 and 11. We were at 9 and 10, so we're at 11 and 12.
We got excited. We reached double digits in terms of episodes we'd recorded. We were still at 9, but you know what? We are actually we were in double digits still. So
that's exciting.
Now we are.
Yeah. Officially. That's fantastic.
Anyway, so counting needs to improve. The other thing, apparently, we can't use small microphones.
No, we got big voices maybe.
Oh, I got told it was because your head was so big we needed a mic. I'm like, yeah. But anyway, so new mics.
Yeah, well, listen, we've survived to double digits and we've upgraded the sound equipment. So beautiful.
And the lovely team that videos and records us got to experience me rapping on a microphone to test it out today. So
it's broken already?
Anyway, so good fun. Moving on now to the serious stuff. And today actually it kind of feels a bit more serious. There's quite a lot of uncertainty happening right now in the economy. Obviously, we have the global kind of fuel crisis going on. So the topic today is marketing in a crisis. And I thought we'd kind of just start with what are you kind of noticing is happening, conversations you're having?
Yeah, well, Sleepy is marketing in a crisis. So it's a pretty interesting one because we sort of had to choose a topic, and there's a lot of work been done on, marketing in a recession. People understand what to do, and you can take some lessons for that. And then the other piece is, well, it's a shortage crisis is where we sit in Australia, uniquely impacted by this, a nation that relies on fuel and relies on diesel, and obviously Donald Trump just decided to start a war, and now everyone lives with the consequences of that each day. So
Great. Hasn't been stressful at all, has it?
No, it's been fantastic.
What are you kind of noticing in terms of small businesses, medium businesses?
Yeah, I think it's good to sort of, I guess, pause and reflect on what part of a crisis that we're in, and we're just in deep uncertainty. So we're coming to the end of the 4th week of the war, and obviously we were probably in the weeks prior to this talking about a state of disruption. Things were going to be different, definitely. Oil tankers, nothing was moving through the Strait of Hormuz, and we were going, this is going to be a bit bad, and if this keeps going, it's going to get really bad, and that's where the media played up, and now it's kind of kept going, and it doesn't look like there's an end in sight. So I think we can officially say this week, and hence why we thought a special episode would matter, we're now in that crisis phase, and we actually have to think about how that's going to impact us probably more to the mid-term and long-term, not just, these short-term changes. I guess what that means for marketing and what we're seeing is that uncertainty is what drives the consumer confidence to be at an all-time low, and we start seeing things like panic, and we start seeing things like the sale of EVs flying out the door, and people trying to hoard fuel and get fuel tankers. So, what does that mean for your business and what you need to do now to look after yourself in the state of the nation and state of the global economy?
Yeah, and it's that uncertainty, that phase just feels kind of dangerous, I don't know, in terms of because you haven't got all the information, you haven't got the clarity, you don't know what to do, right? Yeah. So that's what drives most things. So I think as a starting point for that uncertainty is everyone probably feels like doing exactly the same thing, and that's just wait and see. And the funny thing is not all clients, from our perspective, are impacted the same, and not all people are impacted the same. Not all small businesses are impacted the same. So we are seeing right now that we have clients who are absolutely thriving, and they've sold out of every piece of stock that they have. Any guesses on what kind of industry that client might be in? Providing fuel tanks.
Yeah, they pretty much do. They provide very, very large fuel tanks, so they supply fuel tanks, so they've sold out. And I think they've tried to get another order in, and hopefully we'll get them here in time. We have clients who, are under significant margin stress. So I think every day, if you have product, we had a vet clinic in here today, and we were looking at, I said, what costs are increasing for you as a result of this? And she's like, I haven't even looked yet. She picks up an email, cost of oxygen getting delivered, cost of medicines getting delivered, warning that the cost of the dog food that will get delivered is going to be more expensive. So margin squeeze is another big thing that's happening. And then the last is just like lack of inquiry. So when we're in this freeze mode, and I think that really is what drives the panic for small business owner, is that where, you might look at a client who is regularly and ideally receiving, let's say on average, 4 to 5 good inbound leads a day. We can look at lead sheets now and go, okay, there's not many. And we've had a few of those phone calls come in and, prompted and talked to them what it's about. I think that the key for me at that point is to not panic that they're not coming. Customers don't disappear. Everyone's just paused. And I think that the thing you want to take back is that right now is a time to just reflect and go, okay, things have paused, but what do I need to do about it as a business owner?
So in this time, how does a business owner actually figure out where they're at, where their customers are at in terms of how they're behaving, what they're going to be doing, what's motivating and what's detracting them?
Well, the very easy one is that if you stop getting inquiry, you pretty much know that they're at the panic stages. Mm-hmm. There was a Harvard business study that was written around recessions, and it sort of talked about putting your customers into 4 categories of framework. Essentially, I'll paraphrase them because I'll never remember everything. One is like business as usual, not impacted at all. That's the best case scenario. One is that we're so rich we don't care, like we're going to be impacted, but like let's just keep it going. The other one is I think I'll be okay, but I'm still uncertain, and it kind of depends how long this lasts, and I'll see it out. And the other one is complete panic in terms of how it sits. So your question, I guess, is directly how do we figure out where they are? You speak to them. The reality that everyone still has today is that they still have a pipeline. Mm. You talk to them. You figure out where people are at. Hey, I quoted this for you a week ago. How's things going? And if people start saying to you, oh, listen, things are just so uncertain right now, I'm comfortable, and that's the majority of conversations you have, you go, all right, our customers are squarely sitting in that kind of, this is going to be painful panic stations category. Yeah,
and that information gives you so much kind of, I guess, information gives you power, I guess, or clarity in how to then talk to them.
Yeah, and I think, it probably puts that framing around if you're going to have a conversation. We never want to be pushy in times like that. People are heightened. We've just come out of COVID. I think the thing we're seeing the most is the business owners are pretty exhausted. I think my own words about 2 weeks ago were, oh God, I'm not sure if I'm ready to do this all over again. So I think it's just a really gentle reassurance and asking people, what do you see happening? How does this impact you? Where's it coming from? What were you, if it's a caravan brand, they've all just gone quiet. Everyone's so uncertain about the full price, the fuel prices. They don't know if they want to do it. They don't know if they want to go on their trip anymore. They don't have a clue. And you go, did you ask them when were they thinking of taking off? When were they thinking of taking delivery of the caravan anyway? I think it's just getting that certain idea for them of going, we're all unsure now. This could actually be pretty much wrapped up by May, June, and we could be okay, or it could be absolutely terrible by May, June. But start to understand people's timeframes and see if you can actually give them a little bit of optimism. But be present, just be visible to them, and by offering sort of those perspectives, you're going to do a lot better than if you just disappear and don't phone anybody up and think the world's fallen.
Yeah, understanding how to talk to them, I think, because, broad messaging right now almost just feels like a waste of time, and it can actually be damaging, right, to a relationship if... Especially like in business to business, business owners, they haven't got the time. There's a lot of stress if people are coming at you and saying things.
It's not business as usual. Yeah. So at a really broad base, mass marketing's done for now. You're not going to go out with a really generic message. I guess the way that I would describe it, and I've drawn on the wall for the team just to give them some indication. If you think of a traditional funnel and, very, very basically there's awareness, interest, consideration, and you sell something, I think you can say in this phase of uncertainty, which we don't necessarily know when will end. We're probably all waiting for some government announcements, and is there going to be fuel rations? Is there not going to be? Are we actually out of diesel? Is Australia going to stop running? Worst case scenario versus things are just going to be a bit harder. Things are definitely going to be more expensive because people capitalise. So that uncertainty means that things in the awareness and interest phase generally pull back a little bit unless you're selling fuel tanks or have unmanned fuel stations subsequently, or jerry cans, or apparently the little caps that go on your fuel bowser, because on your fuel cap on your car, because apparently people are going to start stealing fuel. Just a new one. Anyway, so things to be in. If I had a printer right now, just to print a product.
A 3D printer, you
that's
mean?
the word. Yeah,
that's what you would do?
My brain's pretty tired today, but yeah, 3D printer.
Big
so,
day.
So I think we just have to coming back to that piece is that top end of the funnel, it's not going to survive in uncertainty. So mass marketing, just walking into a place and saying, hey, how you doing, is not the message we want to be sending out. It's a really tailored, direct message that you want to be getting at, which is this impacting you? How is it impacting you? Or is there a particular message? I wouldn't going to give all our tactics away, but we sat down and wallboarded the messaging. We're going to go to market with particular clients today, and we just changed our frame, and we're doing that for every single one of our clients, which is how can we change the message a little bit.
Wait, so the solution isn't to kind of cut marketing cost and spend if no one's in the awareness phase looking for you? Or?
Well, of course, I'm not going to say that. Yeah, so listen...
it's a common tactic, right? People,
at the end of the day, a business owner is looking... We're not in it yet. I don't think I've talked to one person yet who said, my revenue's declined as a result of this. We're still driving around. I mean, we caught the train today. That was a terrifying experience. Midland Station might be new, still just as scary. We're still living life as normal, but things will move on. So I haven't talked to anyone who's like, revenue's down. We're still delivering the work that was in pipeline. Inquiry has started to slip. And so, no, of course you don't stop spending on marketing. To remain visible, and I say it's to show leadership in times of crisis, to go back to people. You still have to earn trust. The money hasn't disappeared somewhere. Someone's still going to have to buy what they're buying from you at some point. And like all things, it's probably not going to be as bad as what we think, probably not going to be as easy, and we're going to trot out of it tomorrow if somehow there's a deal made with Trump and Iran. But it'll be somewhere in between. And we saw that pent-up energy and that pent-up need to spend at the back of COVID. And those who continued to invest, continued to keep in touch with their customers, as soon as JobKeeper was released, boom, off we went. And they were the big winners because they kept in touch with the market and they made stuff keep happening.
Yeah, because I think there's that easy drive to have that short-term cost cutting, but it doesn't necessarily have the long-term benefit, right?
Yeah.
And it's that balancing it up. But I guess the overall kind of the way we're looking at it is just optimizing spend and still doing activity, but just making sure everything you're doing is really relevant.
Yeah, so there's a point here where in 60 to 90 days we're through the uncertainty. I think we can definitely say the government's going to have to make some form of announcement. The new normal, we don't know what that looks like yet, so that's why it's hard now. But in 60 to 90 days, that new normal exists. So if you've just turned everything off and haven't made plans, now's the time to show the leadership and make the plans. And that's what you want to be investing in. I've sat since yesterday in 8 client meetings, and nothing's been on business as usual. It's all been about how are we going to communicate to our clients about increases in pricing if they get passed down to us. Have we secured our supply chains? Have we communicated to them? How are we going to communicate to our staff about how they come to work? Everything's totally different. You think we didn't go in with the assumption that they're approving a social media post that they thought of 2 months ago, because it's completely bloody irrelevant today, and it's completely... there's no empathy in us going in and having that same conversation. That's how we've had to change. And it's just planning now for that 30 to 60 days, maybe 90 days to get them through, but not stopping.
Yeah. It's interesting because you talk about, obviously, costs have gone up in delivering services and goods, right? But then there's also that flip side where people are nervous, and instead of increasing costs, they're thinking, should we discount and try and get a sale that way?
Yeah, worst tactic you could have. Yeah.
Yeah, be blunt about it.
Yeah. Listen, it's proven, like, what do we want to do? Lessons of recession, lessons of COVID is panic usually makes us move away from our brand, what we actually do. You know, what is it that we do better than anyone else in the world? So what's our core service? We get very quickly tempted by the next thing, or we try to change things quickly because that short-term demand has gone away. So sometimes you've got to explore those things, but don't move too far away from what your core is. Discounting, so going, I've got something now, I just need to get it out the door. Well, having stock might be the greatest advantage you can have in a supply crisis. It might be the advantage you have over someone else. And if someone is considering the purchase and they're sitting in your pipeline and then you just slash that price, I think they know why you're doing it as well. So the brand perception for that can be an absolutely terrible thing. Like, costs are about to go up. And we already had a few phone calls coming through, like, I'm just going to offer this, I need to make sure I get sales through the door. It's like, you don't need the wrong customer sales through the door. You still need to maintain your brand presence of being a premium brand. You do that, all the good work you've done for years has gone away. So definitely not recommended. Understand what it is. Don't move away from your core brand promise and what you put together. Don't slash and discount prices. Understand who your new target audience is because it could also give you an opportunity to get rid of clients that maybe aren't perfect clients for you and maximise profit. If there's people that don't pay you on time, if there's people that are imperfect clients and they're just going to leave you, God, maximise it. That's okay. So, you know, it's just the temptation is to make sure you're filling the top of the funnel when you've just got to realise if you're filling it right now, it's probably not the right type of client. Focus on the customers that you already have. Understand your target audience and where things might be changing for them, and then just stick to what you do best and just see how you need to modify it for what is a new market.
Yeah. So don't panic a commercial decision right now. Really understand your client.
You'd probably be doing it for 60 days and then having to change back pretty quickly, right?
I feel like I'm so used to, obviously there's a lot of strategy at the start of all of our engagements, and they always say it in the meetings, is competing on price is a race to the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's you know, especially in B2B and the kind of relationships that you need to develop in that space, right? It takes people really understanding your value, so you develop a great relationship, trusting relationship, and have that kind of long-term.
Yeah, price is often, it works for Bunnings. You know, there are places that will get you in the door and have that, but the convenience of Bunnings now, I mean, we're there every weekend, and we'd never price match anything because we just can't be bothered because it's got everything we need at it. So people might advertise it, but it's not really sometimes the reality. So we talk about, parity selling propositions and unique selling propositions to define what you're really good at in your brand. And often you're never going to own a category where you are the unique one with a price advantage. There will be another competitor that comes in with price most commonly. So it just becomes another parity selling proposition. Yeah. If you've already raced to the bottom, how can you afford to do something differently to then give you another advantage or another unique selling proposition over that client? So price is a really important one to consider. And the other thing is prices are going up everywhere around us. So right now you might go, cool, I've got this stock, I can discount that. Well, I guarantee by the time your guy drives to install that, lighting supply, it's probably going to have already cost you about 15% more of what you've paid in fuel or just to get him there or whatever bits and pieces he's missed. So it's just not the strategy for right now.
Okay, let's get practical now. What are 3 things a business owner should be trying to do this week?
Super close to your pipeline. So the opportunities that you have in your pipeline now are your most likely to guide you through the next 30 to 90 days. Mm-hmm. Foster them, understand what their decision making is, what's delaying different things, and just keep them close and keep earning their trust. Because once the uncertainty phase is through, they're still going to be there. Remember, they haven't disappeared. They just paused. So just keep that communication with them. Don't go the hard sale.
So don't expect a bunch of new inbound leads. Look after what you've already got in your pipeline.
Yeah, unless you're selling fuel containers. That's exactly right.
Yeah, and the conversations don't just have to be with prospective leads as well. Current clients, suppliers, with your team, other business owners, right?
It's constant 24-hour communication. At least that's what it feels like, yes.
Okay. Number 2?
Very, very much for your existing customers, but right now the customers you already have are if not the most important thing. So important. So these two are equal. Stay visible, stay present, keep putting information out there, keep communicating, find ways that you can help them that might not be how you traditionally have helped them, but you've got to turn things around. And we're seeing demand come in the strangest ways for some of our clients, and it's such a beautiful thing to see. But it wouldn't have happened if people weren't picking up the phone to each other, picking up the phone to their clients, saying, have you thought about this? I've just heard about this. Are you buying an EV? Everyone's buying an EV. What needs to happen? I've got an EV. Shivers, I should have an EV. You know, people are having conversations about things way outside, but what are you demonstrating? You're demonstrating that you give a shit about them, that you care about them. And that staying visible is really important. And what that means is you still are going to have some form of marketing out there. You're still going to have some brand information out there. They're paused. They're going to come back. So just make sure you're visible and just stay relevant.
What about number 3, third thing someone can do this week as a business owner?
I think the lesson from COVID was planning 90 days ahead, but without being hysterical. So I just encourage people, you know, a lot of what we've been doing is looking at people's plans in 30, 60, 90 days. So if this happens, then this is what we obviously do communications. This is what we'd communicate. If this happens, this is what we would communicate. So what does that look like to your customer? What are their risks looking like? What are their supply chains looking like? Could you find alternatives for them? Do you know people that know different things? That 90-day plan of going, if this, then what, is actually, I get that it's daunting and a little bit overwhelming. And many people would say, well, you plan so much and whatever will be, will be. No, history proves that if you plan well, you might be a little over-prepared, but people look to you and you lead them and you provide them confidence. That's a really good thing for trust. So plan 90 days ahead and do a bunch of scenarios out and just make people feel more comfortable. When we have a plan, the calmness that kind of comes over the top of us is a good thing. And I think business owners should be looking to do that.
Yeah, perfect. So we've got clarity, visibility and being useful, and then just some good old planning. You want to bring up spreadsheets again, or
that's pretty much all that's been on between meetings and spreadsheets. That's true. And listen, we've got some tight scenarios and some growth scenarios, and
it's not about being perfect either, is it? It's just talking
absolutely.
about each
No
scenario.
one knows what's going to happen.
No one
right?
knows.
So you plan
Truly,
for
no one knows.
all of them, and you don't spend a ridiculous amount of time. And I guess a lot of people spend a lot of time panicking, trying to change the product and put it around. But actually, if you just go, this is the worst that can happen, this is the next worst that can happen, but this is the best that can happen. And I think that's the one that encourages me the most, is actually history would definitely say there is so much opportunity. That's not going and buying a sea container of toilet paper and hoping that you'll make gross margin out of that to the skies, right? They were the dumb ideas, unless you were actually, sorbent. Maybe it was a good idea, but the here is like, what is it that I can do to find opportunities within my clients and for my clients to see them through. So I don't think it is a bad thing to just look at things with a more optimistic lens, and just 90 days. Next year's going to be another problem, but in 90 days we'll be very clear on where we're heading.
Yeah. So final thoughts for people either feeling, business owners maybe feeling a little flat or maybe a little stressed.
Yeah, it's a point in time. It's an environment we live in today, and we know that it's ever changing, and it will change. So just keep to the really basic things. Those who froze generally haven't done well. Stay visible, keep a plan ahead, keep communicating, have a look at those scenarios. But ultimately know that tomorrow's another day. If those scenario plans, you don't need to work detailed on. It's like, if this has happened, I'll probably think this. If you plan to the tiniest detail, that environment changes so quickly. And so just know we're all in it together. The environment will change time and time again. And let's see what happens. I think this is the worst phase. The uncertainty phase is the worst phase.
Yeah.
In 60 to 90 days, we'll be happier puppies. Might be a little bit, have rattled from what's been through, but we'll be happier.
Yeah. And if you want to continue the conversation or have any questions about this, you can always reach out, jump on our website 3by2.com.au, where next episode we're going to chat through BD in a crisis, which also kind of expand some of the things that you've spoken on today.
Yeah, well, then I don't have to sit down with you tomorrow and go through it. We can just We can just get it from the podcast.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Noted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Let's get to work.
all right.